The Secrets of Stargate is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give.
You're listening to The Secrets of Stargate, Episode 10.
Janet West, Jackson has identified the seventh symbol.
All right, here we go. We are about to try to make a connection.
All we gotta do is bust out of here, commandeer the ship, and fly on home.
Indeed. You say that a lot.
I know that this could be dangerous. But this is our job, right? It's what we signed on to do.
It was never about going home. It's about getting us to where we're going.
Hi, I'm Jack Barazzini, and you're listening to The Secrets of Stargate, where we talk about the hidden meanings and deeper layers found in the Stargate movies, TV series, and more. And joining me today are Father Cory Stika. Hi, Father.
How's it going, Jack?
Going well. And Lisa Jones. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Jack.
And Victor Lambs. Hey, Victor.
Hi, Jack.
Today we are discussing the 10th episode of the first season of Stargate SG-1, Thor's Hammer. In this episode, it opens with Daniel Jackson explaining to General Hammond and the rest of the SG-1 team that there are a lot of similarities between Norse mythology and things they have been seeing on their trips through the Stargate. They end up going to this planet called Samaria, where there's a giant Celtic-looking Thor's Hammer device. It ends up beaming away Teal'c and Jack O'Neill. They disappear. They meet up with the Celtic peoples on the planet. They encounter a woman named Kendra, who is a former Goa'uld host. She explains to Daniel Jackson and Samantha Carter that Jack O'Neill and Teal'c have been transported to a labyrinth where all the Goa'uld are sent when they try to attack that planet. In the labyrinth, Teal'c and Jack O'Neill encounter Unas, who is a primordial creature who is of the first race that was taken over by the Goa'uld. And they defeat the creature, and they end up escaping the labyrinth. And in the labyrinth, there is a device that could be used to kill the Goa'uld creature without harming the host. They believe they could use that to perhaps help Skara and Shari, but they end up having to destroy the device to get Teal'c out of the labyrinth. And they leave with the hope that they can someday help Skara and Shari because Kendra was able to return from being taken over by the Goa'uld. I really like this episode.
Yeah, it's finally getting good. We're finally getting a couple of good episodes after so many clunkers we've had to deal with. We're finally getting good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this definitely expands the mythology of the show, this episode here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like how it lays a lot of that stuff out. I was looking up, this is the first reference we get to the Goa'uld actually being referred to as the System Lords rather than just the individual Goa'uld. At one point, Kendra, the former host, references Marduk, who is, I'm assuming we're going to see him as a Goa'uld later on, but that is an ancient Babylonian god, so we're getting further expansion upon how basically all ancient mythical gods from Earth are actually Goa'uld, or their identities were assumed by Goa'uld, so that was cool to see.
Well, another thing we get here is we find out that there is potentially another group of aliens, which we learn eventually is the Asgard, that have been on Earth and have been helping humanity fight against the Goa'uld, and that the Asgards are the ones who created Thor's hammer. Although, at this point, Chris Hemsworth didn't step out as Thor. No, I'm kidding.
And we also get, I think, maybe the first mention that the Goa'uld didn't build the Stargate network.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That they would have been built by somebody else, or other aliens could have been using it as well. So yeah, lots of firsts in this episode. First mention of Teal'c symbiote as Junior, which is a going concern for the next 5 or 6 seasons.
Well, I like the fact they brought up specifically that the Goa'uld are parasites. So that would also go with their use of technology, that they wouldn't waste the energy to develop their own technologies. They would just steal other people's technologies and use them because they're a parasite. That's what parasites do. Parasites steal the energy of the body and reuse it for their own.
Yeah, so lots of really good stuff in this episode. Liked lots of great guest stars in this episode, shall we say?
Yes, we get James Earl Jones voicing Unas, who is the primordial creature in the labyrinth, and as Teal'c says, he's a myth from Goa'uld history, and they are the first creatures that the Goa'uld took as hosts.
Yep, they evolved on the same planet as the Gould, and a little bit later on in the series, we do get to visit that planet and experience a little bit more about Unas culture, and they have a very interesting culture. I like the Unas episodes a lot.
Nice. That'll be cool to see.
It is interesting that this one, the Unas, makes it sound like he is the first, and we don't know that for a fact that he was the first to be taken on as a Goa'uld host, but he is definitely part of the race that did that. But I don't know if they had developed yet this idea that there actually had been he was one of a number of races of that race that had become Goa'uld hosts until they decided, you know what, those humans work so much better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about you, Sid? What were your thoughts on the episode?
I liked it. I have to say I'd forgotten all about the Unas part. So that was a little bit of a surprise for me when I watched it again. I don't know how I forgot that, especially the James Earl Jones part. But no, I agree with everything y'all have said so far. That's why I've been so quiet, because I'd forgotten how so much of a leap forward this episode was in really setting out what's to come and talking about the Asgard, who are going to become very important to us later. And really, I think this episode also solidified Teal'c's place in the team. You know, I mean, think about it. They could have just left him. Hey, here's some snacks. We'll go, we're going to go figure out another way. We're going to pop open a panel and, keep this around because Shara and Skara are so important. But they didn't. And they saved him and destroyed what could have been, savior for their friends.
Oh, they didn't just destroy it. Jack was extremely cold here and made Daniel destroy the only device that could possibly save his wife.
Right.
Anybody could have shot it, except for Teal'c.
Yeah.
But
at least Daniel didn't sit there and whine about it for 5 minutes.
That is true, and I almost felt like that scene, and I don't know if this was intentional or not, but it felt like a callback to in the movie where they have him going to be the one who shoots everybody.
Ooh.
And so at least on a visual level, that seemed to be a callback, but that could just be a coincidence. But yeah, so there's the device in the labyrinth, which is essentially a giant Thor's hammer-shaped gate, and if any Goa'uld goes through it, it will kill the symbiont without harming the host. And the whole moral issue is if Teal'c goes through it, it's going to kill his symbiote and I guess irrevocably damage him. It didn't really make it clear, but I'm assuming that the Jaffa without their hosts are unable to function. That seems to be what the implication is.
Well, they said that basically the Goa'uld becomes his immune system.
Right.
So the Goa'uld gives him all these benefits, but then that means the Jaffa don't have a natural immune system like the rest of humanity does.
Mm-hmm.
And we do learn later how long they have once they lose a symbiote. They can live but very short time. So
Interesting. Yeah, I also thought it was funny that they didn't really even look at any other ways. Like, could we just dig a tunnel around this one spot, or is the entire thing completely shielded? And it was fairly easy to destroy. Like, he hit that one time, like just kind of taking a blind shot, and that took it out. So
yeah,
I thought that was funny.
I did like the scene where the staff weapon doesn't work. And Unas says, "Your weapons don't work here." Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He just lights him up.
Your weapons can't kill me.
Yeah.
I know the secrets of the labyrinth.
Yeah, that was good. We also finally got which I feel like was a missed opportunity in the Broca Divide. We finally got our labyrinth.
Oh yeah, we did.
So
although it's not much of a labyrinth, Kendra, who is the former Goa'uld, talks about how there are these really long corridors leading to rooms, and the labyrinth is this really complex thing. And Jack and Teal'c pretty much run in a straight line and come to the end of it, very, very quickly. Although to be clear, we're not sure how long. It seems like a couple days that Carter and Daniel Jackson are walking through British Columbia. But I did want to mention the character of Kendra because she's actually pretty interesting when you think about it. Her homeworld is a place called Jabana, and they worship the Goa'uld Marduk. I was thinking he might be like this Great Dane cartoon dog or something, but I think it's probably Marmaduke. But once she comes to the planet and her Goa'uld is killed, she converts to Thorism like pretty completely. Like, she's interpreting signs in the weather as being, Thor's will or the Valkyrie. And so it's really interesting to see this character having been kind of saved and redeemed by Thor, kind of adopting, that as her religion now, which I think kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, if you were saved from that kind of life, then
So was this the first time we saw the healing device used?
I think so, because they set it up like it's the brain frying device that Ra has used. It's a very inefficient way to kill people, but so I think that was
Jack was straight up going to just shoot her. I mean,
yeah. Well, I was going to comment too is that this shows that those who had been hosts can use Goa'uld technology, later, and that's something they'll come back to again. That there is that connection from the Goa'uld to the technology, and once the Goa'uld dies, the former host can still use that technology.
I did also think it was interesting that instead of just using the gold insecticide basically machine on the host, they make them, I guess, hang out in that labyrinth until they die rather than just like going straight for that. So that was interesting, why the Asgard decided to do that way.
Was that where they were showing great reverence for the human, that they didn't want to hurt the human in order to destroy the Goa'uld?
Well, because the device doesn't kill the human host; it just kills the Goa'uld.
True.
So I don't know why they would just go straight to that rather than letting them starve to death.
I almost feel like it's a little bit of a torture, if you will, to the Goa'uld.
Yeah.
Because of course, as Hollow Thor says, that you have no worshipers, your weapons do not work here, you have no power, and so now you're going to live in this isolation. And when you're finally done with the isolation, you can leave and die, but your human host will remain. Paraphrase. I don't remember the exact lines, but it's something to that extent. And it is an interesting choice on the part of the Asgard High Council to do it this way. And again, that's another concept that we hear for the first time is the High Council, which we will hear again and again and again, especially once we actually meet the Asgard instead of just the hollow version of it, which, by the way, they don't look like the hollow version.
I do know that is coming.
Which is why I got such a big kick out of the line, "You're a little short for gods, aren't you?"
Yeah.
when in fact the actual gods are even shorter than humans. But yeah, Thor's motives are a little weird. So the whole thing with the labyrinth, but then also, is it Gerwin? She mentions, "Oh yeah, Thor brought us here from Earth to keep us safe, and gave us the hammer to keep us safe." It's like, well, wouldn't you guys have been safe on Earth? Because we had Vikings there, and they turned out just fine, I guess. But it is kind of weird that Thor would just like pick up a subset of like Vikings, bring them to this planet, and leave them.
He has the same attitude as Elon Musk, I guess. It's his backup planet.
Yeah,
there we go.
I like all the world building that goes on in this episode, and you get more than just here's individual planets. You're getting the system lords, you get the Asgard High Council, so it's cool to see all that coming together, and I'm really excited to see where that all goes. I still want to know I want to know why everyone speaks English, though. I know that that's just a conceit for television, but
because it's easy.
Yeah. There's not even universal translator hand wave going on.
Yeah, it's not like Star Wars where everybody speaks their own language and they pretend like they all understand each other.
Although speaking of that, I did like the little version of the Golden Record, that the Sagan Institute makes for the Stargate program to give as like a gift representative gift for other cultures and civilizations that they meet. So I think that was a nice touch, and definitely something you would want to bring with you on all of your trips.
Although I don't think we ever see it again.
So I have a question about it. Is it a box? What is it?
Yeah.
It's a box.
I think it was like like a box that has like the Golden Record type thing that they put on the
mixtapes, newspaper clippings, old letters.
Let's say the way the
coupons.
Yeah, the way the box is, it looks like something you'd buy that would be like the complete Led Zeppelin or something, just with the art on it.
Yeah.
I figured like a fancy CD case or something. Yeah. No,
right. Like she hands him a rock. You know what I mean? He's like, "Oh, I got a box."
Yep. But yeah, and you can imagine we don't see it again as far as I can recall, but you can imagine that they would have it as part of their their loadout on the map. You know, they'd have one hiding there somewhere, kind of like Daniel did, where he just, oh great, and he stuck it on there. You know, I mean, it would make sense. It would make sense to do something like that, since that's something we have done before, like you mentioned, the record on the Voyager ships and things like that. So
it's funny because I was watching this with our 8-year-old, and he saw the box. He's like, "Oh, like the golden record." I was like, "How do you know about the golden record?" Like, that was like 30 years, 40 years before you were born.
Nice. Maybe you listen to the SoundCloud mixtape of it that NASA put up.
Oh, neat. I'll have to check that out. We can put a link to that in the show notes.
Yeah, definitely.
Of course, then that brings up the meme of, you know, from the aliens, stop sending us your nude pictures and your address. Thanks.
Nice. Yeah, that does. I would like to see the behind the scenes of the First Contact Committee for SG-1. I don't know if that's something that the show gets into later. But of course, in real life, if you're going to be doing...
Nope. No. SG-1 is the first contact.
Yeah.
Yep.
They make all the rules themselves as they go.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Shoot first. Ask questions later.
It's definitely not Star Trek where there's like, oh yes, this is how you handle first contact. It's like, no, they walk through and this is about as good as first contact gets.
And they usually go, Daniel, you're up.
Yeah.
No prep at all.
Are your weapons better than ours? Can we have one? It's pretty much.
This is America.
We have good weapons. You fight the Gould. Here you go. Oh, you have better weapons than we do. We want yours instead. Yeah. Although it's kind of a missed opportunity. And who knows? Maybe now with Amazon buying up MGM, you know, maybe we'll have new Stargate. Maybe one of them will be like SG-2 following up SG-1. You know, how do they handle second contact? You know, kind of like Lower Decks on Star Trek. You know, the second contact ship.
Yeah, I was about to say you could do a Lower Deck style. People have to go back and take care of all the problems that the first contact crew started.
Yeah. We're the cleanup crew for SG-1.
They need one.
Yeah.
I did actually read some news on, you know how there's been that rumor floating around that they're going to do another show or something. And I did just read something that came out last week that Amanda Tapping said that she'd been asked if she would be interested in not only being in it, but in directing it.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
So
that'll be cool.
Of course, she also said in the interview she really wants to be a 4-star general now. You know.
Well, sure.
She's got to get her rank up.
Yeah, and I will say that they definitely get promoted fairly quickly on this show.
I mean, they're in unprecedented situations, though, so I feel like they kind of deserve it.
I think every time you save the entire planet, you should get a promotion.
At least.
I mean, yeah.
So do they publicize promotions, or are there like other people in the Air Force who are going, what's going on over there? Like, why do they keep...
You know, the funny part is they do, especially when you get to higher ranks like general. It, you know, like when I put on senior airman, it was just, you know, kind of a bullet point in the base newspaper that I was one of this many senior airmen for the month or whatever. But when you get to the point of like a higher officer, higher NCO, yeah, they do actually publicize that pretty widely. And I'm sure they'd have some cover story of, you know, well, they're in, you know, Cheyenne Mountain, so they're just working for NORAD. They're just doing really good job for NORAD.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do wonder how that works in the real world military. And Father Cory, you may know more about this. But how do they handle promotions with people who are working on highly classified projects like that? Like, I'd imagine like the people working for like Skunk Works or something, like you're not gonna know what they're doing. So are you gonna know when they get promoted?
You know, a lot of times I think you only would see just like name and what unit they're with, and most of the time that's, especially for something top secret, I could imagine they would have a unit, quote unquote, that they belong to. That's not the real unit,
right?
You know, name, base, and yeah, so it's not name, unit, and base. So it's not like, unless you really know, you're really in the know of these top secret things, it's not going to matter. You know, no one's going to really know, because you realize when you've got a military that's hundreds of thousands of people and that's just one branch, you're not going to know, oh, this general, yeah, I know who that is, unless you happen to run across them in your career.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
And actually, next season, the first episode we see with Jacob Carter, Sam's dad, she's actually going to Washington to receive an accommodation. And I think the cover story is like, you know, some sort of paper or some research she did on weather or something, or, you know, solar flares or something. instead of saving the world from the Gould.
Deep space telemetry.
Yeah.
That was it. Yeah.
Nice.
And she is the only character in this episode who really didn't have anything to do except for argue with Daniel.
Except being kind of cranky. Like, how do you know we're going the right direction? Like, and Daniel's like, I mean, they're 100. I mean, what do you want from me? Yeah. Look, we come from the land of ice and snow, from the midnight sun where the hot springs flow. Hammer of the gods.
They just need to drive their ships to new lands.
Yeah. To call back to your Led Zeppelin reference earlier.
Well, she did kind of get put in charge all of a sudden when, her commanding officer vanished in a puff of light. So, I mean, that kind of would make anybody cranky if like, okay, now what do I got to do? Now I've got to handle Daniel?
Yeah,
Wait a second.
Yeah, he's not listening.
And it is kind of funny too, they break for the credits and they come back. So when before they break to the credits, they're surrounded by the Cimmerians. And then when they come back, the Cimmerians have gone away on foot to get their chief, their chiefess, and she comes in on horse and stuff. So probably they were gone for a couple of hours. And when they get back, like, Daniel and Sam are still standing there arguing about like, what happened,
Yeah. And like they take the most logical assumption, which is it killed them, which if I was going to set up some sort of giant device that was supposed to like point defend a gate, I would have it be a death shot. But I guess the Asgards like to go the long way with that.
Just like the Gould, right? Just move it to later. Maybe they'll have time to escape. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's it was in many ways to torture the Gould themselves, So you could understand that. But I got a kick out of, as the device is powering up, they all start chanting Thor, Thor, Thor,
Thor, Thor.
I like how no one moves out of the way. They're just like like standing there like, oh, I wonder what this giant thing is about to do.
Yeah. And then Jack's like, get out of there. It's like, what? I'm standing. Like, where am I going to get out of? Yeah.
But then Jack's like, Daniel, power it up. Let's go home. And Daniel's like, wait, but let's have a whole discussion about it.
Yes.
Like, no one's,
of course.
Something's going on.
Yeah.
Daniel really needs to learn to just take orders instead of talking back to his superior officer.
Yeah, I think he figures that out about season 11. Oh, wait, there are only 10 seasons.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of hand waving too at the fact that you have this protected planet that suddenly isn't protected anymore because you wanted to save one guy instead of bringing him back maybe some sandwiches and a box of comic books and say, look, hang out here for a little bit. We'll get Shara and Skara back, and then once we save them, we'll blow up the device. And
we actually see them again, don't we? This planet.
Yes, we do. Yep. In Thor's chariot, and they have to another Catherine Powers episode, I believe, and they do have to kind of make things right after messing it up.
Well, they could hand they could have handed Teal'c, some sandwiches and some stuff to drink and everything, and a whole bunch of C4 to blow up around the thing, so they don't actually wreck the thing itself.
Yeah, there was they didn't even hand wave that. Like, I feel like they could have corrected that with one line of dialogue, just saying, the entire mountain is shielded, and so we have to penetrate through this door. But they don't do that. They're just like, we're going to shoot it without even asking any questions.
Well, they even had the line about how water and, like several hundred years would eventually wear out the wall. But all they would have to do is, okay, well, let's see if we can blast through this rock, take a shot at the wall and have a force field immediately flare up where it hit the wall. Oh, okay, I guess that won't work.
Right.
Isn't that what they did to get them out of the prison in the very first episode? Was they blasted through the rock?
Yeah, they
do.
Yeah,
the staff weapon. Yep.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
It was convenient. You had a time frame. You gotta finish the episode.
But security by obscurity is a perfect way to do security, right? If no one knows that the security device is down, then it should still be secure, right?
Exactly.
We'll see that next season.
Yeah.
It's like only blocking the ports people are going to try to hit on your firewall and leaving everything else open.
I did like Teal'c recognizes that the Unas is not unlike our vampire myths, these ancient ones and stuff, and he uses the more classical vampire instead of vampire. So it's cool to see that Teal'c's a fan of the literature.
Nice.
Yeah,
I guess and I really like this episode.
I like the creature design of the Unas. It's very very creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah, and what they do with that species, later on, like I said, it's really really cool. But Oh, and a nice use of the passive voice there by Teal'c too. After they've just blasted this thing, smithereens, he leans down and says, "Oh, the host will not survive. There's too much damage." I was like, "Oh yeah, where'd that damage come from?"
Yeah.
You guys.
But poor dude's been hanging out there for thousands of years, and it's how he's got to go. Yeah, the damage was caused by them, not by the device. So.
Yeah, the damage. Yeah, it was Jack's bullets that took care of the creature, and then the device took care of the Goa'uld that was keeping the creature alive.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, then if we think about it, how old was the creature? How long had he been there? So, as we see in future seasons, if the host, a Goa'uld has been keeping the host alive much longer than its natural life, when the Goa'uld dies, the host ages, right? And dies. So, could have gone that way too.
I also want to know, what's the healing like on that big open wound you got on your stomach?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't seem like the people on that planet had any sort of antiseptic or something. I think that'll about wrap it up. Father Cory, did you have anything else to add?
Nope, nothing.
What about you, Lisa?
Nope. I just liked Teal'c thinking the creature's dead, and he's not dead. It's a myth that he can heal. Maybe it's just a nightmare that's told to, or bedtime story told to young Jaffa. Oops.
Yeah.
There are certainly a lot of Jaffa myths.
Yeah.
That planet's a myth. The Unath is a myth. Lots of myths and obscure dialects in the Jaffa culture there.
Yeah. And we'll hear more as we go along.
Nice. What about you, Victor?
Nope, that was it. But just had to ask, are you considering the same tactic as I?
Nice.
That's a good one.
A bit of a reach. But, yeah.
Well, before we go, I'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Secrets of Stargate, including Mary C., Zane C., Joshua S., Peter O., and Matthew K. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Stargate and all the shows at StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. Be sure to follow the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or on the SQPN YouTube channel. To find previous episodes of Secrets of Stargate and to send feedback, please visit sqpn.com/Stargate. You can email us at stargate@sqpn.com or follow StarQuest on social media at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia or on Twitter at SQPN. You can also join the StarQuest fan club mailing list by texting StarQuest to 6686. Send StarQuest to 6686. We'll be back next time when we'll be discussing the next episode of SG-1, The Torment of Tantalus. Until then, Father Cory, thank you for joining me and sharing the Secrets of Stargate.
Thanks, Jack.
Lisa Jones, thank you as well.
Thanks, Jack.
And Victor Lambs, thank you too.
Thanks, Jack.
And once again, I'm Jack Barazzini. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Stargate on StarQuest.
Anyway, I'm sorry, but that just happens to be how I feel about it. What do you think?